Welcome to A Word with the Girls. I'm Abby and I'm joined with my sisters, Molly and Emily. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at A Word with the Girls. If you haven't subscribed to our podcast on Spotify, go click that follow button so you don't miss another episode. We would love to hear from you. If you have a question or even a word you'd like for us to discuss, make sure to comment on Spotify or on our Instagram, and your word could be featured in our future episode. Well, before we dive into our word for today, I think it's important that we catch up. It's been kind of a big week for Em. So yeah, if you want to catch us up on what's going on with you, Em.
Sure. Well, I had a big weekend. Molly had a big weekend
That's true.
traveling, so we'll start with the low and then we'll go high. So I had mentioned I had this volleyball tournament that was coming up that I was super excited about, and I was really killing it. Like amazing hits, big blocks, all the things. And then I did something funky on the court, and it felt like somebody hit me from behind, like with a bat or a kettlebell, which didn't make sense in my head. And as I was laying flat on my face on the floor, I was like, "Oh no, I think I know exactly what happened. I think I ruptured my Achilles." And so, thankfully, my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law and my nephew were at the game because Kevin's been out of town, and so they were able to take me to the ER. And long story short, thankfully, there's been, like, lots of appointments and MRIs that have been had, so, I meet with an, orthopedic surgeon on Thursday to look at the MRI and find out, like, the extent of the damage, and then hopefully come up with a plan for most likely surgery. So, it's been a roller coaster of emotions, just kind of accepting the fact of, like, a very long road to recovery, but our dad, ironically, has had this happen to him, and then my roommate in college, and then somebody from my church, and so I have a lot of people that I can kinda lean on and get some tips on how to, take on this journey, and it is definitely going to be a marathon, which I said I would never do a marathon, so here we are.
Oh no.
Oh, no. But it's okay, and, it's so interesting, like, I'm this adaptive fitness trainer, and I do classes for people, seated or standing, and my motto is no matter what your limitation, you can keep moving, and over the last few days, it's just kind of been I'm so thankful for the knowledge that I have to know how to, like, modify life and get
Mhm.
around. I'm thankful for a strong body right now, like, I'm doing a lot of single leg squats, and so, there's that. But people have been so generous and, like, letting me borrow knee scooters and making me
Mm.
food and things like that. So, it's kind of my update, kind of a bummer. Have to give up volleyball, which has been so awesome and which I've really loved, but, obviously God's got something else for me, so I will see what that looks like. But that is my update. Yay.
All right. Well, and if the people in our audience are praying people,
Mm,
or even just like good vibes people,
mhm.
just we're we're a little worried and bummed about how this might impact the cruise that we're going on in March, which is a small thing. But if you want to, you can join us in praying that the timing works out perfectly and somehow it doesn't deter things too much.
Well,
So,
I've been comparing it to, the whole thing with Taylor Swift's gonna be in Japan and her concert's at this time, and then the Super Bowl starts at this time in Vegas, like, how many hours will it take for her to get there or whatever? I've been doing that kind of math in my own head of like, okay, if I get surgery next week, and then, by the time March 18th comes around, like, how many weeks is that? And so, we need some very specific prayers that surgery happens next week and that it's does well and that I recover quickly and that my doctor gives me the approval to travel. So, and then if not, that the airlines, thank you, American Airlines, that you'll be so gracious to refund our money or give us credit.
mhm.
Those are the two prayer requests, and God answers prayers. He's the God of the details. So, but Maul, you just went to Vegas, and I feel like there were so many things happening in Vegas or about to happen in Vegas. So the timing was so interesting. So
Was
I'm so curious to hear your experience.
totally insane. Yeah. Super wild to be there the week before Super Bowl, which like I even had this thought of
I didn't
like,
even know that.
"Oh, are we gonna be there the weekend of Super Bowl?" I didn't even realize that Super Bowl was happening in Vegas. When we first booked the trip, I was like, "Oh, early February, that's usually when the Super Bowl is. Hopefully, we won't be in Vegas at the same time." And then I realized like, "Oh, it's in Vegas." but it's this
Hmm.
coming Sunday. So the whole city is just like being decked out in all the decor. It's so funny, like the random ways that they're decorating each of the wild casinos and stuff. They had the whole like CBS Sports Center stage like built in front
Cool.
of the Bellagio.
Hmm.
So that was so crazy to see, like to see them build that up, and there was like all of this security everywhere. So yeah, so that was wild. U2 was also doing their concert at the Sphere. I sat next to a guy who was going to the concert that night, and then I later heard that tickets were going for like $3,000 or something
Oh my
crazy.
gosh.
And then U2 was also like, I think it might have been recorded before, but like there was a clip in the Grammys of U2 performing at the Sphere on Sunday. Like it was just so crazy. And then we were walking around Sunday evening. We had gone to dinner at this awesome place at the Venetian, and we're walking back and there's like cop cars everywhere. And people are like standing on the corner like watching stuff. There's like a newscaster in front of the Super Bowl thing. And I was just like, what is going on? And someone goes, oh, Biden is in town. The
Oh my
president
god.
is coming to Las Vegas because the Nevada primaries are soon. Like they're one of the first
Oh.
states, I guess, that does primaries. So we're standing on this like walking bridge right by the Bellagio, and we see his whole like motorcade come. They've shut down the road so that he can go through. And we were
Gosh.
standing next to this couple who was like, oh yeah, we were at the airport today when he showed up and we couldn't get off the plane for like 45 minutes.
Right?
Whoa.
And then they're like, oh, are we going to be able to get into our room? And I was like, are you guys staying at the Bellagio? They said, yes. I was like, oh man. So,
That's
anyways, it was just
Dang.
wild. And like Travis Kelsey showed up Sunday night too, I think, or
Mhm.
Monday. So it was just like so crazy to be in this place with all of these
Funny.
like famous people.
Weird
Also, I
timing.
did see Julianne Hough.
Oh.
She's like a famous dancer with a
Yeah.
guy who I don't know who he is, but he was this very attractive black man who looked familiar. And I've been researching all weekend trying to figure out who he is, and I can't figure out who he
Oh.
is, but I think they were together. And we were like, are we seeing something that isn't public yet? Because,
Did you look on her Instagram and stuff? There's no pictures
yeah,
of them?
no. And
Interesting.
like he's famous, but I don't know. I couldn't place him. I
Hmm.
couldn't place him. But
Ooh,
Well, you
we're
saw
dropping the tea
penises
here on A
then.
Word with
I
the
know.
Girls.
I know.
You heard it first from Molly's point of view.
Yeah. But I mean, all of that is, yeah, silly. Um, but the weekend itself was just so precious and special. um, the friendship that I have. I mean, I've spoken about this crew before on the podcast, but um, there's a group of four of us who met in Indonesia, lived together there for like we did life together for about a year and a half or so. Um, and now we're all over the place. But three out of the four of us met up in Vegas this weekend and just caught up on all the things and had lots of hard conversations about, you know, life and
Mm.
um, the hands we've been dealt, and how do we talk to God about that? How do we help each other through it? And
Mm.
it just, it's so special, and it feels so rare to have um I mean, it feels very similar to like our situation, right? Like people who really know each other um and who can speak truth and sometimes speak hard truth, and who are just like in the thick of it. And I'm lucky to have a few different pockets of that, and this is one of them. And so it was just like so good. So yeah,
It's so
I
fun.
did also get to sing karaoke on the Las Vegas Strip.
Cool.
And I
Amazing.
pretty much brought the house down, so that also was pretty
What
amazing.
song did you do? I did Hold On by Wilson Phillips and Alone by Heart. I sang that one at my birthday too.
Oh, okay.
But what was so precious is there were like these old men who also sang, and one of them sounded just like Frank Sinatra, and he was all decked out in this like cute overcoat with like a thing and like a hat. It was the cutest, coolest thing I've ever
My
done. It was so
You were
much
part of
fun.
it.
Yes. And people like
Like,
they
liked
really
you.
cheered for me.
That's
Cool.
good, Maul.
Yeah.
Yay.
It
Did
was
your
so fun.
friends do they do karaoke?
They didn't sing.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're just there for moral support.
They also didn't ride the roller coaster with me, but I rode it by myself.
I saw you went solo. Was it good? It goes through the casino, right?
No, no. It was the New York one. It was so steep. It was so steep. It's a good roller coaster. It's expensive, but I was like, what? I'm going to do it. Like, I don't know. That's why you're
I mean,
grown
you
up.
jumped off the sphere. When was that? Was that for your 30th
Yeah.
birthday or something?
Yeah, that was like 12 years ago.
Oh, I thought that was that
It was
mine?
at your trip. We didn't even go down to the stratosphere. That's on the other end. But
Oh, okay.
yeah. But yeah, I was like, I'll do it by myself. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm an adult.
Amazing.
Right. Yeah.
That's
Amazing.
awesome.
So fun. Good
Oh.
food. And just, Vegas is so weird. We gambled like one time, but we didn't even know how to use the machine. I think I won a quarter and I didn't even cash out. Oh man, it was embarrassing if anyone was watching us. Like we were like, what does this button mean? We don't even get to pull the thing.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that reminds me. I do have a gift for the kids actually.
Oh, it's so fun.
It was great. Super fun weekend. So worth
Awesome.
it.
Good.
Yeah, hard to get back in the swing of things, but totally worth it.
What'd
Yeah.
y'all do, Abby?
Just normal life. Got a pedicure.
Nice.
Me too. That is the good thing is I went and got a pedicure the night before my incident happened, so my toes are very pretty, and I got a gel pedicure, which I don't normally do.
Yay!
So it's
They'll
gonna
be
like
good for a
live forever.
long time.
Nice.
Yeah, I broke away for pedicure. We went to church. Went on a run. Yeah, pretty usual.
That's
When
good.
do you guys go on your first trip?
The end of February. We're going to Colorado Springs. See some of our favorite people. Stay with them for a long weekend, and then yes.
I know what you did this weekend. You went and looked at RVs.
Oh, we did. Yes. What day was that? Saturday?
Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so these sweet friends we're going to see in Colorado Springs, they bought our pop-up camper from us. So we're going to take it to them.
Oh, fun.
Hopefully.
Okay, cool.
If the weather, is good.
Mm.
If not, we have a backup plan. But so they bought our pop-up.
Okay, cool.
And so we've been shopping and trying to figure out floor plans we like for a new one. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I've been on RV Trader way too much, and they're all starting to look the same. So, yeah, so now we're just looking. We're not in a hurry, but
Okay.
some of the campers are just crazy. One, crazy expensive. And there's this one that we saw that has like a kid zone in the back. You can close the door. There's 2 bunk beds and one underneath. And then we don't do a TV in the camper, but then there'd be a TV so the 3 kids could like be back there. I was like,
Whoa.
this is awesome.
Dang.
And then it
Amazing.
had like a U-shaped dinette and a couch and then our half. And I was just like, I like this one. But it was like 33 feet long and
Jeez.
$50,000.
Can your expedition pull that?
No. No.
Okay.
No. Yeah. So I have things that I want, but what I want versus the cost and what our expedition can pull are, very different things. So
Well, I guess we could choose a word.
Abby, do you want to pick a number between 3 and 92?
for some reason 72 is like in my head. So let's go 72.
All right. Today's word is grit.
Yes.
Ironically enough.
Grit. Grit.
I love that word.
I feel like that's how you described yourself when we did like get to know you
I
podcast.
think it's an appropriate word for Abby for sure.
Really for all of us in like different ways. Like we all have grit, but it might like look different.
For sure.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah, I think it shows up differently. I just think it's something that's like an internal drive that just like
Mhm.
pushes you further and further. And in a healthy way, not like an unhealthy drive. It's like
Mhm.
the push behind it is believing in yourself
Mhm.
and like digging deep.
Where do you feel like it shows up for you?
I think different areas. I think as an individual, it shows up physically, like my running up mountains, cycling and wanting to push myself really hard. I think as like a mom and someone who's given birth 3 times, I think it shows up in those ways of knowing like, oh my gosh, this baby and me, no one else can do it for me. I have to do
Mhm.
this and I've done it 3 times. All are very different, and I think that grit is just something like you don't really have a choice, but you can do it. Kind of
Mhm.
scary. And then I just think in motherhood in general, I think just in the role that I have as a
Mhm.
mom, being with my kids 90% of my life, 90% of my time. I just think it requires a lot of grit just to like, believing that I can do what God's called me to do, push through even when it's hard. I think people who have grit or people who I've seen who have it, it's like super inspiring because it's not really something that's like shown off. I don't think.
Mhm.
Like, I don't think people are like, look at how much grit I have.
Right.
I think it's more of like a hidden thing.
Like an extra like gear, you
Yeah.
know. Do you think everybody has grit somewhere deep inside? Or is it like a personality thing? Or is it based off of like life experience? Or I don't know. I really don't know. Or do like Enneagram 8s have grit? I feel like because you're an 8, like
Am
I
I
don't
an
know.
8? I can never remember what I am.
You're
I
an
think
8.
you are. I
Okay.
think one of
Is
our
that the
episodes needs to
challenger?
be like,
Yeah,
yeah.
we should do an Enneagram episode. Yes.
The challenger. Okay.
Mhm.
I literally can never remember. I'm like, honey, I don't know. Am I a 6? He's like, I don't know. I don't do those. But he's a 5?
Mhm. Yeah, I think 8s are have a self-assurance
Mhm.
Hmm.
that
Like
makes them
very,
gritty.
yeah.
Like
Oh, okay.
you know who you are and you live that out unapologetically.
Yeah.
And I think that shows up as, well, of course I'm gonna run up a mountain. What?
Right.
Duh.
Right.
Which is like not a normal thought.
Which I don't
Right.
realize, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Abby, like, I don't know, out of all of us, like you've always been the independent athlete where you like rock climbing or biking or
Ah.
endurance running, like all of those things only require you, where I'm more of like a team athlete. Like I need
Mhm.
that's like what motivates me. Like I don't want to let my team down is what motivates me. So yeah, you've
Mhm.
just like always had this crazy grit, that extra gear. I mean, we called you the hiker bug growing up. You just like
Mhm.
had this
Mhm.
extra gear of just going, like an Energizer bunny or something.
Well, and it's interesting because I've been going on runs lately more regularly, and it's like, oh, there she is. Like, there she is. And I can like
Oh.
feel it. I can feel it coming back where I can just like
Mm.
run and it feels fast and it feels good and I've been listening to Album Leaf. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Album Leaf. They're just like instrumental, kind of moody, you could say. But I've been listening to that and I don't know, it's been good.
That's so
So
fun. I
nice.
love when feeling that familiar feeling comes and you're just like for me, I'm like, I don't know. Again, this is where it's gonna be hard, like mentally for me. But when I was at the gym and we were doing like box jumps and rope slams,
Oh,
like I started to feel like an athlete again. Like I am still strong and I can still do all these things. And it's just like a
yeah.
good feeling where you're like, oh yeah,
Hmm.
there she is.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yeah, it was nice to feel it because I think up until this point, I mean, I'm almost 10 months postpartum. My abs are still, getting there, but it's just like I'm allowing myself to take the time it needs to feel like myself again. And it just recently felt like, oh, okay, I can like keep a 9-minute mile for a while. And
Amazing.
yeah, it feels good. And it feels good to be able to be like, yes,
Mhm.
like I can do it. And it feels good and it's not like uncomfortable. Or maybe it is uncomfortable.
I feel like I've never had those thoughts of like, there's the athlete. No, no, no. I think my, yeah, no, when I'm
Well,
running, it's like,
who showed up in your mind as your, like, alter ego when you ran your half marathon? Like, there is an athlete and
Mm.
some grit there, because that you can't just do that willy-nilly.
for sure, for sure. I think, I don't know. I'm not sure I would describe that as grit. For me, I think grit shows up in relationship.
Ooh,
Mm.
interesting.
Like, I think I have relational grit, if that
Ooh.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like the ability to have hard conversation, but I think that's where it shows up for me. That, and then whatever you would use to describe my ability to like be in Bangkok and live in primitive situations.
That's what I was thinking. Like that's next level. Like I could never do that.
What do you call that? I mean
Mental
that
grit.
is, yeah.
Yes. I would say that is like mentally next level. Just like being surrounded in discomfort of like physical surrounding and being able to like tune it out, like rats fighting in the background.
Yeah.
No, nope, nope.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think that's what I was thinking of for grit for you too.
Yeah. No, for sure. Or like even just, doing things by myself. And I mean, I just think of other like single women too, who own houses and have to deal with home repairs and like all the things that come with that without a partner. You got to have a certain amount of grit there.
Right.
That's true.
But I also
Yeah.
think like you can have grit and also cry.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Yes,
you
there's the
can,
balance.
which I feel like Emily, you are displaying that in real time, right? Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
you feeling your emotions about this injury, and also you're not letting it completely debilitate you or take you out. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, you're literally crawling on the ground to get to where you need to be. And
Doing
like,
exercise classes.
right. And like
Yeah.
cooking in the kitchen on a rolly chair. Like, that requires a certain amount of, I mean, if we're talking about mental grit, like you are the queen of
Yes.
mental grit for sure. Like the ability to be in an MRI for hours and hours and hours without, like, that's not a small thing.
Well,
Yeah.
and I also think being a military spouse,
Yeah.
Also true.
also right now you're doing this all by yourself.
Right.
Like I would just be in a puddle on the ground, like someone take care of me. And you're just
Yeah.
like, no, I'm gonna film it.
Right.
I'm gonna film myself.
You're not only doing it, but you're also
Come along with
recording
me.
all of it.
Yeah. I'm like, well, here's an opportunity. Who knows? Maybe I'll go viral and become famous thanks to this injury. Like, there's the silver lining in it all. I think it's so interesting that like we're almost kind of Abby, you're kind of like the physical grit. Molly, you're like the mental grit. Because I think of like spiritual grit is kind of like
For
Mm,
sure.
what like comes to mind
the
for me. So
most.
Mhm.
Yes.
um because I think that that's like a faith journey anyways, like being, you know, having faith is not easy. It's a challenge all the time because you're constantly
Mhm.
like faced with things that aren't fair or don't make sense, and you're like, okay, I'm just going to trust
Mm.
in this God who I know is faithful, but it doesn't always make sense or whatever's going on in life. And I just feel like that's kind of like sort of been my journey with so many different things. But I heard this amazing phrase and now I want to like make a shirt. I feel with all this time now that I'll have on my hands with this injury that maybe I'll start creating more things. But our pastor recently left to go into a new job, and he got up and kind of honored his wife in this really beautiful way. You know, pastor wives do a lot of work too, and he was just acknowledging like everything that she had done, and he had gotten her this pearl necklace, and there was like a saying attached to the pearl necklace that he read about, and the saying, I wrote it down because it was just like really cool, and it said, "Made from grit but full of grace."
Mm,
And I was
Mm,
like,
that's
I love
good.
that. Yeah.
mhm,
And so that's kind of what makes me think of sort of like Molly in your same vein of like grit is strength, but then it's also like encapsulated with like grace too, because I think it's
right.
kind of like a bit of both. So that's kind of what I think of like made from grit, which we all have been made from grit in all of our different life scenarios, but also full of grace too.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Anyways, yeah, digging deep will be well, and I keep saying this saying, you probably all will remember dad saying this all the time, but I just keep thinking like adapt and overcome. Like that's what I got to do. And dad
Mhm.
always says
Improvise,
that.
adapt, and go.
Right. Improvise, adapt, and overcome. And I feel like that's life in general, you know. So like, okay, bit of a
Totally.
curveball. That's okay.
How do you feel like you instill grit in your kids?
I think it's hard because I I think part of grit is sometimes natural,
Mm,
and I think sometimes it has to be taught. And I have found that because Amelia and Amos are so very different, and I see Amelia naturally has grit in ways like in physical things, she has natural grit, but in other ways like a new thing can be kind of uncomfortable for her. And I think over time, new things haven't become so debilitating for her. But that had to kind of be taught of like, there's discomfort in new things, and this is how we push through. And where there's Amos, who physically he does not have grit. The little man, he can be just the biggest wuss of all time. Um, and
poor
I think it's
Missy.
It's more like it's just like with Millie, I see physical grit. With Amos, I don't. And
Mm,
there's equal grace. Like it's not like she's better in that way than him, but it's taken a lot of patience for me to have to teach him, how to push through physically, like if like hiking. Millie has always just been zoom, I'm going to take off, and she can hike for miles. And Amos, he's like dragging his feet and whining and already wants a snack like 20 steps in. And so trying to teach him like, no, bud, this is good. This is good for you. You have it in you.
mm,
Um, I think it just comes down to helping them believe that they can do hard things
yeah,
and truly helping them believe that. Because I think even I have a hard time believing I can do hard things sometimes.
yeah.
And so just instilling this confidence in who they are, who God's created them to be, and helping them push through hard things and helping them know like no one else can do these things for you. And yeah, it's hard. It's hard. But I think I've just noticed that everyone has just different levels of grit, and maybe it's different categories, like we've
Mhm,
said, of grit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not raising children, but I work with a lot of them. And I think it is all about just providing the opportunities for that and helping them work through to the other side. Because I think in the parenting fads as of late, I think parents want to protect their kids from any form of like suffering or
mm,
challenge or discomfort or anything like that, which also it all comes from a good place, but I think you do your kids a disservice when you
mm,
step in
mhm,
and solve for them,
sure.
versus like it is hard. You're right. Like validate that it's hard, validate that it's a difficult thing, but then walk with them through it and help them get to the other side, because I think there's like all those studies out there about how important grit is, especially with suffering and trauma and things like that. And it's an important quality to build up in kids, because it means it's sustainable, right? Like it gives them what they need to become more independent and to work through all their stuff. But I think making sure you do it with that grace piece is really important.
I was going to give an example. It's funny because piano is like the most test of parents' patience of all time. And today, even Millie is a phenomenal pianist, and she's learning the hardest song, and it's all by sound. Like she doesn't know, like it's
Wow.
not written music, it's all by
Jeez.
sound. And so she can't figure out this one. And it's the Suzuki method. So we have the book, but we don't go by the book. The teacher just teaches her by sound. Anyway, so I have the book so I can help her play it if we need to. And it is so hard. And I don't know, she is far beyond my abilities. So I can help her at some point, but I'm like, girl, like this is you know these notes better than I do. Like
Mm.
you can do this, and I'm going to do my best to help you, but you can do this, but we got to try, and there's tears and frustration, and I just, at the end of it, she got like 2 measures of it and did it really well. And our reminders to our kids is always like, we're going to love you no matter you're good and no matter you're bad.
That's so good.
And we tell them that every night before bed. And I just felt like in that moment, it was like, girl, you tried your best. And you know what? I don't care if you would have gotten it right or wrong. Like, you worked so hard, and I love you no matter you get the song or not. And she just like dug her face into my chest and cried.
Mhm.
And I was like,
That's so
yeah,
good though.
piano does not define you. Like,
Totally. Yep.
yeah, it was just like a really hard song. And I think Millie, being who she is, she wants to do it perfectly. And when she doesn't get it right, she takes it hard on herself. And it's like, no. Like, this is just piano. This doesn't define you as being successful, but also being able to like celebrate her and her efforts and be like, okay, shake it off. Let's move on. You know what? We can revisit it tomorrow. And you did great right now, and let's move on.
So good.
Mm.
To speak
Yeah.
that kind of truth over your kids, I think what that does is it builds resilience. I think resilience and grit are kind of like an interchangeable thing, because those skills can help you with anything, a diagnosis, an injury, a failure, a job loss, whatever. Like, if you don't have those tools and knowing how to, like, yeah, keep pushing, that's where you find yourself in those deep pits of darkness, you know? So I love that that's what you speak over them, because performance can really screw with your mind
Totally. Well, and I
in
can
school, whatever.
tell, yeah, I can tell with her that, yeah, she just wants to do things well and wants things to come easy. And it's like, that's good. And a lot of things do come easy for you. But like when they don't, then what? You know?
It's a good word.
It was a good word.
That's a good word. I think that's like, I always love these conversations, because it just shows like one word really can mean something differently, and it also shows like how different we are, but like how we all like need each other too. Of like, Abby, watching you, one of these days I'm gonna watch you do the Imogene race, and just like that's so inspiring. And then like watching you, Molly, as you do all of your like super independent things, like that's inspiring. And I think it's just watch and see us all thrive and walk full of grace, yet full of grace and made by grit. Maybe that will be the title of our episode. What do you think?
Grit
Yeah.
and grace. I know. It'd be a good title for a podcast, actually.
Rebrand? Maybe.
Thanks for joining us on A Word with the Girls, a podcast where one word sparks conversation. We believe in the power of connection and stories. So now it's your turn. Take this word grit and bring it to your people. See where the conversation takes you. Let us know how it goes in the comments. Let us know what kind of grit you have, or if you even believe in the theory of different kinds of grit: relational, spiritual, emotional, mental. And you can put that in the comments on Instagram or on Spotify, or down below on YouTube. So there we go.
Awesome. Love you guys.
Love you.
Love you more. Bye.
Join us for A Word with the Girls. New episodes drop every week.